Most men are taught a dangerous lie long before they understand the world. They are told that being liked is strength, that approval creates influence, that if people enjoy your presence, they will naturally respect you. This belief sounds civilized, polite, even virtuous. It is none of those things. In reality, the desire to be liked is one of the fastest ways to lose power, authority, and leverage over your own life. Because the moment you prioritize likability, you begin to edit yourself. You soften your language. You hesitate before speaking. You suppress truth if it might cause friction. You delay decisions to keep the peace. You explain yourself so others won't misunderstand you. And slowly, almost invisibly, you give away control. Powerful men understand a principle most never do. Likability creates comfort, not respect. Comfort makes people relaxed around you. Respect makes them cautious. And caution is the foundation of authority. When you want to be liked, you unconsciously place yourself beneath others. You seek their emotional approval. You wait for signals that you are accepted. You become responsive instead of directive. People feel this immediately. They may still smile at you, they may still enjoy you, but they stop adjusting to you. Instead, you adjust to them. Niccolò Machiavelli observed this pattern while studying rulers, princes, and political leaders. The men who obsessed over public opinion became slaves to it. They could not act freely. Every move required validation. Every decision needed justification. The rulers who accepted being disliked retained authority. Why? Because power does not come from being agreeable. It comes from being consistent, decisive, and unmoved by reaction. A man who seeks approval is predictable. A predictable man is easy to manage. And a man who can be managed will never be followed with conviction. This is why truly powerful men often appear distant, reserved, or even cold. Not because they lack emotion, but because they refuse to let emotion dictate their behavior. They do not perform for acceptance. They do not negotiate their identity. They do not chase harmony at the expense of clarity. They decide. Others respond. Likability feels good in the short term. It feeds the ego. It creates warmth. It gives the illusion of connection. But it extracts a long-term cost. Loss of authority. Every time you choose being liked over being respected, you communicate a hidden message. I need you to feel good about me. And need is always perceived as weakness. Powerful men understand this instinctively. They would rather be misunderstood than diluted, rather be disliked than controlled, rather stand alone than bend themselves into something acceptable. This does not mean cruelty. It does not mean hostility. It does not mean arrogance. It means self-sovereignty. The powerful man does not ask the room how it feels about his decision. He makes the decision, and the room adjusts. In the next part, you'll understand why people instinctively lose respect for men who seek approval, even when those men are intelligent, kind, or capable, and why respect returns the moment a man stops trying to be liked. Why seeking approval automatically lowers your status. Human beings do not consciously decide who they respect. Respect is not a moral judgment. It is a biological calculation. Long before logic enters the picture, the nervous system is scanning for one thing: who is dependent on whom. And this is where most men fail without realizing it. The moment you seek approval, through tone, explanation, humor, or emotional adjustment, you signal dependence. You communicate that your internal state is influenced by how others perceive you. That signal is subtle, but it is unmistakable. People don't think, "This man wants to be liked." They feel, "This man is adjustable." And adjustable men are not respected. Approval-seeking behavior takes many forms. Some are obvious, others are socially rewarded. Over-explaining your decisions, laughing at jokes that disrespect you, softening boundaries to avoid tension, apologizing when you did nothing wrong, checking reactions before committing to action. Each one sends the same message: I am responsive to you. In power dynamics, responsiveness flows downward. Children respond to adults. Employees respond to managers. Subordinates respond to leaders. When you respond emotionally to others, you place yourself beneath them, even if no one says it out loud. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He observed that rulers who tried to please everyone ended up pleasing no one and controlling nothing. The need for approval made them hesitant. Hesitation made them predictable. Predictability made them vulnerable. People instinctively test men who seek approval. They question decisions. They delay responses. They apply subtle pressure. Not because they are malicious, but because biology demands clarity in hierarchy. And here's the brutal truth most men avoid. People feel safer challenging men who need to be liked, because those men will explain, they will justify, they will soften. The man who does not chase approval creates uncertainty, and uncertainty forces restraint. This is why powerful men are often misinterpreted. Their calm is mistaken for arrogance. Their silence is labeled coldness. Their lack of emotional reaction is framed as indifference. But beneath those labels lies something far more important: psychological independence. The man who does not seek approval is internally anchored. His emotional state is not up for negotiation. He does not outsource his sense of worth. He does not require permission to act. And people feel that immediately. They may not like him. They may not understand him. But they adjust to him. This is the paradox most men never grasp. Trying to be liked makes people comfortable enough to disrespect you. Being unconcerned with approval makes people cautious enough to respect you. Approval seeking invites familiarity. Familiarity invites erosion of boundaries. Eroded boundaries destroy authority. Powerful men do not fight for respect. They simply stop begging for acceptance. In the next part, you'll see why discomfort is essential to authority, and why men who are always pleasant are unconsciously dismissed, even when they are competent, intelligent, and capable. Why discomfort is the foundation of authority. Most men misunderstand comfort. They believe comfort creates trust. They believe harmony builds influence. They believe if people feel good around them, respect will naturally follow. This is backwards. Comfort does not create authority. Discomfort does. Not discomfort through aggression or hostility, but the discomfort of uncertainty, firmness, and emotional independence. When a man is overly pleasant, emotionally available, and eager to smooth every edge, becomes familiar. Familiarity breeds casualness. Casualness breeds disregard. This is why men who are easy to be around are often easy to ignore. Authority requires friction. Machiavelli observed that rulers who were constantly warm and accommodating lost control of their courts. Their generosity invited entitlement. Their openness invited manipulation. Their desire to be liked invited challenge. People do not test men who feel solid. They test men who feel flexible. A man who creates no emotional friction becomes transparent. His reactions are known. His limits are predictable. His tolerance is measurable. Once people map these things, they operate around him, not beneath him. Discomfort interrupts this process. When people cannot predict your reactions, they hesitate. When they hesitate, they self-regulate. When they self-regulate, authority is established without force. This is why powerful men often feel intimidating without doing anything intimidating. They do not rush to reassure. They do not soften silence. They do not over-explain decisions. They allow others to sit with uncertainty. That uncertainty creates psychological gravity. Men who chase likability instinctively try to eliminate discomfort. They clarify too much. They joke to release tension. They fill silence with words. They smooth conflict prematurely. In doing so, they remove the very pressure that produces respect. Discomfort is not cruelty. It is structure. Just as walls give a building shape, emotional boundaries give a man presence. Without boundaries, energy leaks. Without structure, authority collapses. This is why men who are always agreeable are rarely followed. They feel safe, but safety does not inspire alignment. Leadership does. The powerful man understands something subtle. People respect what they must adjust to. When others have to adjust their behavior around you, your authority grows. When you adjust yourself to them, it dissolves. This is not about dominance displays. It is about internal steadiness. The man who remains composed when tension appears instantly differentiates himself from the man who scrambles to relieve it. One feels anchored, the other feels reactive, and the nervous system always defers to the anchored. This is why discomfort precedes respect. It signals strength without aggression. It communicates, I am not here to soothe you, I am here to act. Men who understand this stop fearing awkwardness. They stop fearing misunderstanding. They stop fearing disapproval. They allow silence. They allow tension. They allow others to feel unsettled. And in doing so, they become unmovable. In the next part, you'll understand why emotional self-control alone is not enough, and why many calm men still fail to command respect, because they mistake restraint for authority. Why calm men still lose power, and what they miss. Many men hear this message and think they already understand it. They say, I'm calm. They say, I don't explode. They say, I control my emotions. And yet, people still challenge them, still interrupt them, still push boundaries, still subtly disrespect them. Why? Because emotional control alone is not authority. Calmness without internal positioning is just passivity with better manners. Machiavelli would never confuse restraint with power. He understood that true authority is not the absence of emotion, it is the presence of an unshakable frame. Here is the mistake most calm men make. They control their reactions, but they still seek resolution. They stay calm, but then they explain. They stay composed, but then they justify. They remain polite, but then they negotiate their boundaries. This is not power. This is emotional discipline sabotaged by approval-seeking. Powerful men do not use calmness to be tolerated. They use it to be immovable. There is a difference between a man who is calm because he is afraid to disrupt harmony, and a man who is calm because he does not need harmony to act. People sense this instantly. The first man feels restrained. The second feels anchored. And only one commands respect. A man who stays calm but still explains himself is signaling, "I am in control of my emotions, but I still need you to agree with me." That final need destroys authority. Machiavelli observed that rulers who appeared composed but constantly justified their actions lost credibility. Their calm made them approachable, but their explanations made them vulnerable. Because explanation opens negotiation. Negotiation opens resistance. Resistance invites testing. This is why some calm men are endlessly debated, while others are simply obeyed. The difference is not temperament, it is frame ownership. The powerful man does not defend his decisions emotionally or intellectually. He states them and lets reality enforce them. He does not try to convince. He does not try to be understood. Does not try to manage feelings. He lets outcomes speak. This is deeply uncomfortable for people around him. Why? Because it removes their leverage. When you cannot provoke emotion and you cannot extract explanation, you are forced to adjust or withdraw. That adjustment is respect. Most men fear this moment. They fear being seen as harsh, distant, or arrogant, so they soften. They clarify, they give ground, and the power they built through calmness evaporates. Calm is only powerful when it is paired with non-neediness. If you need others to feel good about your calm, it becomes weakness. If you are calm regardless of reaction, it becomes dominance. Machiavelli's insight was brutal but accurate. Men follow those who seem inevitable, not pleasant, not fair, not gentle. Inevitable. The man who does not bend under pressure. The man who does not argue for his position. The man who does not chase understanding. In the next part, you'll learn why powerful men deliberately allow themselves to be misunderstood, and how misunderstanding, when handled correctly, becomes one of the strongest sources of authority a man can possess. Why powerful men allow themselves to be misunderstood. Most men are terrified of being misunderstood. They feel a surge of anxiety the moment someone misreads their intentions. They rush to correct the narrative. They clarify, they explain, they defend. Not because the misunderstanding is dangerous, but because it feels emotionally unbearable. This instinct is precisely what powerful men eliminate. Machiavelli understood that misunderstanding is not a threat to power. Dependence on understanding is. When you require others to fully understand you in order to act, you give them control over your emotional stability. You hand them a veto over your decisions. You place your internal state at the mercy of their perception. Powerful men refuse this trade. They know that clarity does not produce authority. Consistency does. A man who acts decisively, even when misunderstood, creates a different kind of gravity. People may question him at first. They may label him unfairly. They may project motives that are not there. But something more important happens beneath the surface. They begin to adapt. When you do not correct every assumption, People are forced to reconcile reality themselves. They stop leaning on your explanations. They stop demanding emotional access. They start watching outcomes instead of words. This is where authority forms. Misunderstanding creates space. Space creates uncertainty. Uncertainty creates caution, and caution is respect's older brother. Men who chase likability panic when they are misunderstood because misunderstanding threatens their identity. They need to be seen as good, fair, reasonable, or kind. Their self-image is tied to perception. Powerful men are internally defined. Their sense of self does not collapse when others misinterpret them. They do not need to rescue their image. They do not need to repair narratives. They allow reality to do the correcting. This is deeply unsettling to most people. Why? Because when a man refuses to explain himself, others lose their grip on him. They cannot anchor to his emotions. They cannot extract reassurance. They cannot pull him into justification loops. He becomes psychologically unavailable. Not absent, but unreachable. Machiavelli observed that rulers who tried to control perception through constant explanation weakened their position. Their words became currency, and currency can be inflated, questioned, or rejected. The ruler who let actions speak remained unassailable. This does not mean silence in all things. It means selective silence. It means understanding that not every misunderstanding deserves correction, and most do not. In fact, misunderstanding often filters people. Those who require constant reassurance will drift away. Those who need emotional access will become frustrated. Those who rely on manipulation will disengage. What remains are people who adjust to your presence instead of demanding access to it. This is why powerful men often appear solitary, not because they reject connection, but because they refuse dependence. They do not need to be liked. They do not need to be understood. They do not need to be approved. They need only to be aligned with themselves. And that alignment creates something most men never experience: unchallengeable presence. In the final part, you'll see why trying to be liked is not just a personal weakness, but a strategic mistake, and how powerful men deliberately choose isolation, friction, and misunderstanding to preserve authority in a world obsessed with approval. The fatal mistake of wanting to be liked, and why powerful men abandon it completely. The desire to be liked is not harmless. It feels innocent, social, human, even virtuous. But in the psychology of power, the need to be liked is a structural weakness. A man who wants to be liked cannot hold firm positions. He cannot apply pressure. He cannot enforce boundaries without internal conflict. Every decision must pass through an invisible filter. Will this make them like me less? That filter destroys authority before it ever has a chance to form. Machiavelli understood this with brutal clarity. He observed that rulers who prioritized affection over fear, harmony over tension, and approval over control eventually lost both respect and loyalty. Why? Because likability creates expectation, and expectation creates entitlement. Once people believe your role is to please them, they feel justified punishing you when you don't. This is the trap. The man who tries to be liked becomes predictable. The predictable man becomes manageable. The manageable man becomes irrelevant. Powerful men reject this chain entirely. They do not try to be cruel. They do not seek conflict for its own sake, but they accept friction as a natural cost of leadership. They understand that discomfort is unavoidable when authority is present. Every strong decision disappoints someone. Every boundary creates resentment somewhere. Every standard excludes those unwilling to meet it. Weak men interpret this as failure. Powerful men interpret it as confirmation. Here is the psychological shift that separates them. Weak men measure success by emotional feedback. Powerful men measure success by structural outcomes. Did the system stabilize? Did the boundary hold? Did behavior change? Did the objective move forward? If yes, the decision was correct, regardless of how it made people feel. This is why powerful men often appear calm under hostility. They are not detached because they don't care. They are detached because they are not emotionally invested in approval. They do not chase validation because validation is a currency they do not use. Validation fluctuates. It depends on moods, trends, and
fragile perceptions. Power requires something more stable, self-anchoring. A powerful man does not ask, "Do they like me?" He asks, "Did I act in alignment with my principles and objectives?" That internal reference point is what makes him immovable. When criticism comes, he evaluates it, not emotionally, but strategically. When praise comes, he registers it, but does not depend on it. When misunderstanding spreads, he watches whether reality corrects it. And often, it does. Because consistency outlasts opinion. Because behavior reshapes perception over time. Because authority does not argue. It persists. This is the paradox most men never grasp. The more you try to be liked, the less respect you command. The less you care about being liked, the more gravity you develop. Not because you are hostile, but because you are not negotiable. People sense this immediately. They sense when a man's behavior is driven by fear of rejection. They sense when his words are shaped to avoid disapproval. They sense when boundaries are soft because approval is more important than principle, and they adjust accordingly. But when a man no longer chases acceptance, when he is willing to be disliked, misunderstood, even resented, something shifts in the room. People listen more carefully. They hesitate before challenging him. They test less aggressively. They adapt instead of pushing. Because deep down, the human mind respects what does not bend. This is the final truth Machiavelli understood. Power is not granted to those who seek love. It is conceded to those who can function without it. The moment you stop trying to be liked, you stop bleeding influence. The moment you stop managing emotions, you start managing outcomes. The moment you detach from approval, you become uncontrollable. And uncontrollable men are the only ones who ever truly lead. That is why powerful men never try to be liked. They don't need to. The world eventually adjusts to them.